The next time you're at the grocery store, you might want to pay extra attention to the packaging you grab off the shelf.
Consumer advocates say they've seen an increase in what's known as shrinkflation. I think regular shoppers have seen it too. We've all seen the prices have stayed the same, but those boxes have really shrunk in size.
In aisles all across America, the choices are bigger than ever, but the size, not so much. From cereal to chips to detergent, so-called shrinkflation may be squeezing down your favorite snack or takeout order and your wallet.
That's the small queso. That was $6.
Now, if you shopped at a grocery store lately, you've noticed something strange. Air-filled bags of chips, shrunken soda cans, and smaller boxes of detergent. Now, this practice isn't new. Sellers have always been shrinking products to avoid rising prices for centuries. Now, a famous example of this happened in 1988 when the coffee company Chock-full of Nuts cut its once 16-ounce coffee canister to 13 ounces. You were essentially paying more for less. Now, technically, this is a form of inflation.
First things first, what is inflation? Put simply, inflation is the rate at which the general level of prices for goods and services rises, leading to a decrease in purchasing power. This means that over time, your money buys you less and less. It's why your grandparents could buy a loaf of bread for a few cents, and now it costs a few dollars. Or even comic books, which were once 10 cents in 1961, now cost nearly $5 on average. So how does inflation hurt us? Well, it erodes the value of our money. When prices rise, each unit of currency buys fewer goods and services. This can lead to an overall decrease in the standard of living, especially if wages don't keep up with the rising prices. People on fixed incomes, like retirees, can be particularly hard hit. Think about it. They have the same amount of money coming in, but suddenly can no longer pay their bills and eat. Now, let's talk about hyperinflation. This is an extreme form of inflation where prices increase rapidly and uncontrollably. One of the most infamous examples is Zimbabwe in the late aughts. At its peak in 2008, Zimbabwe's inflation rate was so high that prices were doubling every day. To put this in perspective, the price of an egg reached about 50 billion Zimbabwe dollars. Imagine going to the store and seeing prices change every hour. That's hyperinflation. It got so bad that they actually released a $100 trillion bill, which is worth about 40 cents US.
We want to build confidence in Zimbabwe. This country is lacking two things: lack of confidence and lack of capital. The two are related. Because once you've got confidence, then capital will come to Zimbabwe, and investors can come to invest in Zimbabwe when they know that the money that they're utilizing is only one currency unit, as opposed to continue to dream about the old currency.
By 2009, Zimbabwe abandoned its currency and adopted multiple foreign currencies, including the US dollar, to try and stabilize its economy. As you can see, inflation can be incredibly damaging to an economy, and just the word alone sends chills down the consumer's spine. So how do companies handle it? Well, they can be pretty devious. Let's discuss two ways that companies hide inflation but still hit your wallet. These are shrinkflation, coined by British economist Pippa Malmgren around 2015, and the new kid on the block, skimpflation, coined by NPR's Planet Money podcast in 2021. Shrinkflation refers to the practice where companies reduce the size or quantity of a product while keeping the price the same, effectively giving consumers less for the same amount of money. This tactic is often used as a way to counter rising production costs without raising prices directly. So, if you notice your candy bar is a little bit smaller, or you buy toilet paper and have fewer sheets, or even your yogurt container has gone from 6 ounces to 5.3 ounces without any change in price, you are experiencing shrinkflation. But even worse is shrinkflation's sneakier cousin, skimpflation. This is when companies maintain their prices but cut back on the quality or level of service they provide. Have you noticed that they don't clean your room at hotels every day, and they also encourage you to reuse your towels for the environment? How about your knees are jammed up against the seat in front of you on an airplane? And what about your unlimited data plan on your cell phone carrier that suddenly has download speeds set to a crawl over time? You have suffered from skimpflation.
Now, as I said before, this is inflation, and there is a real cost to it. For instance, the shrinking size of snacks added 2.6 percentage points to inflation. Now, in context, that's roughly the total amount of inflation from 2015 to 2019.
New inflation numbers were higher than expected in January. Food prices rising 2.6% versus last year. Grocery prices specifically rising a little over 1%. But they're up 25% since 2020.
Now, shrinkflation isn't the only way that inflation manifests itself. There's also what's known as skimpflation. Now, let's take paper towels as an example. If I give you fewer sheets per roll, that's shrinkflation. You're paying the same amount, but you're just getting less.
Well, you've probably noticed it at the grocery store. Product sizes getting smaller, but the price is staying the same.
It's called shrinkflation. It's been going on since the pandemic, and it's not fooling anyone.
But now let's use that same example of paper towels for skimpflation, where you'll still be getting the same amount of sheets per roll, but the quality of the paper used to produce the paper towels would be diminished. And this is generally known as the hidden cost of inflation. See, government statisticians say that food and household products are not generally or directly measured for quality changes. So if your microwave dinner brand starts using the cheaper vegetable oil instead of the high-end olive oil, then you know what's up. But that change won't show up on any government reports. And companies do this because it works. Most people don't realize that they're only buying 11 ounces of toothpaste rather than 12, or even if the quality actually changes. You may notice something different at the beginning, but you'll get used to it over time, and then that will become your new normal. But in contrast, if the price changed or went up, then you would start looking for cheaper options. So this was a way to keep the price stable and let you at least believe you're still getting the same product, even though you're not.